Hi everybody, Bearded Rogue here, and for today's video I want to talk to you about Super Motherload from Roxley Games. Yes, I know Motherload is spelled incorrectly, but this is a game that is based off of a video game that spells it wrong, so they were unable to do anything about the spelling. But Super Motherload, this is the second edition. This is still a somewhat hard to find game. I picked it up shortly after I moved to Portland, and very glad that I did. I'll tell you why here in a bit, but it's a little bit hard to find now, but I do highly recommend it if you are a fan of deck builders. We'll get into a little bit more about how it works and how it plays, and I'm going to highlight some of the things that I think are really clever in the design, and then we can go from there. So, Super Motherload. So, the game, as I said, is a deck builder. However, it has a couple of differences from other deck builders. You do have a deck of starter cards, which are all of the cards in your deck are pilots. Okay? Man, the glare on these cards. So, all of the pilots look a little crazy, but they each have a couple of pieces of information in some cases, or one piece of information in others. So this is your pilot. The only thing you care about on this pilot is this icon here, which means it can be used as one blue drill, which we'll talk about how that works in just a second. But that's that guy. You've got some more blue drills, you've got a couple of yellow drills, and then you've got red pilots who are drills, but are also able to bomb. And that's what this little icon down here is. And we'll go into how that works. But this is your starter deck. And then, instead of a shared supply for all players, you have your own personal supply. So you have pilots in each color that you can purchase, as well as a wild color. So, for example, you have these red pilots, and you will splay them on the table in cost order, which the cost is the green number up here at the top. So 10, 15, 20, 25, they're all cost like that. And then, as you can see, they have better drills in this case and better bomb shapes in this case. They're also worth victory points. This is one of the primary ways that you get victory points in the game, is acquiring more pilots. You have 4 of these in each color, except I think maybe... no, it's 4 in each color. 4 red, 4 blue, 4 yellow, 4 wild. The different colors have some differentiation. The yellows tend to have more drills in this deck. The blue tend to also draw you cards when you use them to drill. Pilots also tend to have an ability on the bottom when you acquire them. So when you acquire them, they will go to your discard pile, just like in most deck building games, unless they have an icon that indicates that they go to your hand. So one of the things I will point out is that each player color is actually asymmetric. They are different. The abilities that you gain when you acquire pilots is different on the bottom. And the wilds all have a very special ability that very much differentiates them from the other player colors. So it is a bit asymmetric as far as things go. So, like, all of them have this wild that has a no, which deals with the objectives. We'll talk about those in a little bit, the achievements, and then each one has one with a special ability. So this one can drill into rock. So yeah, so that's a unique ability. Some of the other factions have... all of the other factions have a different ability on that wild card that does different things. The one that I played last night actually can can dig their tunnels catty corner to existing tunnels rather than having to match them up edge to edge. This green faction here, their wild actually lets you split the gems that you mine to different target cards for purchasing. We'll explain how purchasing works in a bit. And this faction here just straight up gives you a bomb. Which bombs are very useful. We'll talk about that in a second. So, how do you use these cards? I talk about drilling, I talk about bombing. So, on your turn, you can basically take 2 actions, and you can repeat actions if you wish. So, one of your actions is to draw 2 cards from your deck. Pretty straightforward, satisfactory action, no more explanation necessary. The other actions have to do with the board that exists in this game. Now, all of the boards are double-sided, and you'll see this one is depth 1. There's a depth 2, a depth 3, and a depth 4. So on this board, there are all sorts of different spaces here that exist for you to mine. So the first thing you'll notice is the skulls are artifacts. Artifacts are special tokens that you will pick up. They'll be look like that on one side. The other side will actually be a special ability that you can reveal. So this one's just 3 points at the end of the game. There are others that will give you an extra turn. Some that will just do all sorts of things. Some will give you a bomb. Some will let you draw cards. Some will let you replicate gems, and we'll talk about that. So that's the first thing, are the artifacts. The game actually ends when the final artifact is dug up on depth 4's board. So that's how they're kind of like the timer for the game. Then you have the various minerals. And there are 3 types of squares on this board, as you can probably see color-wise. All of these brown ones are dirt. You can mine those with drills. You can also bomb them with no difficulties. Then there are these steel plates. Steel plates must be drilled, but they must be drilled by the color of card that is bordering it, so these have to be drilled with yellow drills. These ones are red drills, and then these ones are blue drills. They cannot be bombed, so you cannot use a bomb on those. And then there are these rock ones that have this dark gray rocky background, and those have to be bombed. Some of them will let you draw cards. That's the universal draw cards icon, so if you bomb this, you'll get to draw 2 cards. Bomb this, you'll get to draw 1 card. Obviously, anywhere there's a bomb, if you mine that, you acquire a bomb. Pretty simple. The other spaces are minerals. And the minerals are the money in this game that you use to purchase additional pilots. So they come in a couple of varieties, and all of the tokens are double-sided. So you have black minerals, which are 2 each, white minerals, which are 5 each, yellow minerals, which are 3 each, the green minerals, which are 8 each, the red minerals, which are 10 each, and then the white minerals, which are 12 each. These are important because as you dig on this, so if I were to play a card that had a single dig, and we'll just use a wild for observation purposes, this guy could also dig in rock, but we're not going to worry about demonstrating that right now, but a single dig of any color. So let's say I really wanted this red-yellow up here. So I could play this as a red card, and because I played 1 drill, I take 1 of these tiles and I cover up this mineral to indicate that I've mined it. I take the yellow token, one of the yellow tokens, this 3, cover this up, and then I put the yellow token on one of my stacks of cards. So all of your pilots will be arrayed next to you in cost order. So you'll have the splayed stack with the 10 red on top, and then you'll have a splayed stack with the 10 yellow and the 10 blue and the 10 wild. And then you'll place this token on this guy. When you mine, if you mine more than one thing, all of them will go to the same card, unless you use the special wild that lets you distribute them. That's why that one is good. So if I were to have mined a yellow and a black, I would be putting 5 on this guy. So I'm halfway to buying him. As soon as the amount of gems on a card equals or exceeds its cost, you don't get change. That card's added to your discard pile, unless it has an icon down here saying that it goes directly to your hand. But that's where all of the various gem things come into play. Everything that you mine will go onto a card that you will acquire later, and again, all of those are worth an escalating number of victory points. So your market is your access to better abilities, your access to additional victory points as the game goes on, and then it can also help you unlock achievements, which we'll talk about that in just a second. But so first action is draw 2 cards. Second action is drill. You play any number of cards that match color from your hand, and then you drill a tunnel that is that distance. The game actually comes with 1s, 2s, and 3s. So if you were to drill 5, if you had 5 drills of the same color, you would combine a 2 and a 3 to make a tunnel. When you drill in straight lines. So let's just say that I had drilled this. I'd spent 3 drills. I would drill in a straight line. If I were to then drill 2, I would be able to then go 2 from any existing tile, or because this is the first tile, I could actually just drill from the surface. So all of the time you place a tile, it has to be edge to edge with another tile. It can be edge to edge with multiple other tiles. The one faction's special ability is being able to actually place them corner to corner, which most factions can't do. If they use their wild, they can do that. But once you've placed a tile on the board, the tunnels are completely player agnostic. So once you've started building a network of tunnels, the other players can play off of that same network of tunnels. So, you know, starting off like this is really cool in that it gets you 2 yellows and a black, but it sets up the other player to get that artifact unless you have another action that you can use to drill to get it. So you have to keep that kind of stuff in mind. So that's how drilling works. And eventually, once both of the artifacts on this board have been drilled, like for example this, you'll go ahead and add depth 2's board underneath this immediately, and then people can start drilling there too. You can even actually drill from one board to another once the board exists. You're never allowed to use your tunnels off of the area, and unless you have a special ability, you can never drill rock. All of these rock spaces cannot be drilled, so that cannot happen unless you have a special ability to drill rock. The next thing is bombing, or the final thing you can do on your turn is bombing. So red cards bomb, and they all have this little space here that tells you the pattern of the bomb. So I'm going to use one that I can actually do with the tiles that I have out of the box. This one. So whenever you do this, you would basically take a bomb token, and you would discard it. Everybody starts with 1, and as you can see, you can pick up more along the way. There are also some on artifacts and things of that nature, but you'll discard a bomb, and then you will add tunnels to the board in this shape, somewhere where existing tunnels could go. You're allowed to rotate or flip this shape, so there's a little bit of Tetris-y action going on with rotation, and you can flip it, so it's even better than Tetris. So this is an L shape that's a 3 and a 1. So I would take one of the 3 tunnels and one of the 1 tunnels, and I would put it on the board. Now, thing to keep in mind is that you cannot bomb metal. That's not acceptable. You can't do that. You're not allowed to. I could, however, bomb these 3 dirt spaces, getting myself a black, another bomb, and drawing a card. The bomb is the only way to get rid of this rock. And then, you know, I could put this up here to also get that artifact. So I've got my L on the board there as a bomb. But it costs me a bomb to do it. So those are the 3 things you can do on your turn. Draw 2 cards, drill with any number of the same color drills, or bomb. And you're acquiring minerals in order to acquire your pilots, which will give you access to better abilities and victory points. And I've mentioned achievements a couple of times. They're another set of cards that are in the game. they come in two varieties. So the first variety are the minor achievements here, and the minor achievements are things that you can accomplish over and over. So this one's like perform 2 bomb actions on a turn. This one's like buy 2 pilots in the same turn. This one is drill at least 2 steel plate spaces in 1 turn. So when you use your when on your turn, if you complete this, like say I drilled 2 steel plate spaces, I would then just take this and add it to my score pile. Because they're minor achievements, there's a deck of them to the side. You'll immediately refill the one that you just completed. You'll fill that space, and then you can drive on. There's also a major achievements, and the major achievements are dealt out at the beginning of the game. Each one of them usually corresponds to the acquisition of pilots. I think they all do. But like this one wants you to have 3 yellow and 3 blue pilot cards acquired from your stacks. This one wants you to have acquired 3 yellow and 3 wild pilots from your stacks. And again, they're worth victory points at the end of the game. So, you'll go through drilling up resources, acquiring more pilots, using those pilots to drill and bomb things, to complete achievements. Eventually, you'll get to depth 4, and someone will drill or bomb the last artifact space, at which point the game will end, and everybody will add up all of their points on artifacts, on their pilots, on any achievements they completed, and that'll be the end of the game. Whoever has the most points wins. There's a lot of clever things about this game. It's very, very tightly knit and interlocking as far as the mechanisms go. When you drill resources, you immediately decide how you're spending them. Like, you immediately allocate them to a pilot. And they sit there until you have enough to acquire that pilot. There's no change, so there's not a lot of fiddliness with currencies. All of the resources being double-sided can cause problems because these could be flipped over to the incorrect side, but in my experience, it's really you grab it, you set it on the thing, and you never touch it again until you're discarding it back to the supply. So it doesn't typically create a lot of issues. The fact that your pilots are worth victory points is a really interesting aspect of it. So you want to acquire the pilots for their special abilities, but you also want to acquire them for their victory points, or to complete certain achievements. And all of the factions have different abilities. Like this guy, the gray player, their red drillers actually let you take an additional action when you acquire them. The drillers on the purple faction, if I can find or the bombers on the purple faction actually just give you bombs back when you acquire them. They give you additional bomb tokens. The green faction's red bombers or red things are also an extra action. That's what that little arrow is. So it's an immediate extra action when you acquire them. And then, let me see, what about these guys? Oh, even better. So these guys come right to your hand when you acquire them instead of going to your discard pile. That's what that little hand with an arrow is. So that's the orange player's bombers. They're also the one that has the bombs anytime they drill with their wild special ability, so that makes sense. But all of them are slightly different. There's only so many abilities to learn and only so many icons that exist in the game, so it's very, very easy to understand what you're looking at. Once you've seen it once, it does the same thing everywhere else it's located, whether it's acquiring a pilot or on the back of an artifact chit. It doesn't matter. They all do the same thing. You know, like this is universally draw 1 card. This is universally draw 2 cards. You know, these are always victory points. It's very consistent in its graphic design. Learning it is very simple. And it plays very quickly. There's a lot of consideration as you're building the paths. As I said, because you're building a path that not only you use, but also that other people can use. So as you're placing tunnels, you may want to try to restrict where other players can go when they branch off of your tunnels. Or you may want to reserve a bunch of drills so that you can go a very far distance to try to then get to something specific that you want. The boards are all double-sided, and they're slightly different on each side, so there's a lot of replayability there, as far as there's no one set path. Obviously, you're playing with a deck of cards, and a deck of cards means the cards will come out in a different order every time, which will change up exactly how you play. The major achievements will be different every time, and emphasize which types of pilots you're going to acquire more of. The minor achievements are going to come out differently, emphasizing different strategies or not, depending on what it is. It's just a really tight, quick little deck building game, and I really enjoyed it. I wish I had played it sooner, because I intend on playing it a lot more. I wish it was easier for people to find, because it's a real gem, pardon the mining pun, of a game. As far as I'm concerned, I think it's really easy to pick up and learn. You could easily play this with children. I wouldn't see any reason that it wouldn't work with family gaming. It plays 4 players, and the asymmetric factions are interesting. I know some people will be upset that they can't choose their particular player color without it having an impact on the overall effects that player color has. But I think that all of them are interesting enough that even if you aren't playing your preferred player color, it doesn't show up anywhere other than the back of your cards, which you only see when it's a deck. It's only there to let you know which deck you're drawing your cards from. Otherwise, you're always looking at the front of the card. You know, the cards that you're acquiring are splayed face up on the table so you can see the costs. The cards in your hand, obviously, you're looking at them. So, you know, there's no player piece that you move around the board. So it's relatively minor in this game compared to other games that lock you into a player ability based on your player color. I don't know. It's really tight. It's really quick. It's really smooth. Once we got going, there were very, very few questions. Memorizing the icons is the hardest part of it, and there's less than 10 icons in the game. Yeah, there's less than 10 icons in the game, and all of them are pretty clear. And they repeat a lot. So you'll see the draw card icon shows up on buy bonuses, it shows up as drill bonuses, and it shows up in the artifact list. You know, the victory points show up on every card that you can buy that isn't a starter card, and in the artifacts. It's just really quick to learn and play, and I really enjoyed it. Anyway, Super Motherload from Roxley Games definitely gets 2 thumbs up, and will be staying in my collection for the foreseeable future. That's it for today, though, guys, so I'm going to let you go, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.